Some statements that I've made in the past have attracted a lot of attention and queries and even generated some controversy. And I'd like to unpack these two statements. The first is where I say that that consciousness is irreducible, fundamental, formless, without cause, etc., etc. A lot of people say, what exactly do you mean? And then I've also said in some of my posts that you are the infinite being. In other words, the infinite is present in every finite experience. The infinite is present as awareness in every finite experience, or every finite perception, every finite thought, etc. So let me unpack these two statements for you. So infinite and borderless. If consciousness encompasses all experience, if consciousness is the subject of all experience and is without form, it cannot have a boundary. However, our individual minds operate within limitations and perceive fragments of this larger reality. As someone said a long time ago, I forget who, with bits of sensory perception, we cannot comprehend the whole. With bits of sensory perception, we cannot experience the whole. With bits of sensory perception, we cannot even imagine the whole. So, if consciousness is fundamental, it is also without cause. Okay, there's no cause effect applying here. If consciousness is the ground of all existence, it cannot arise from anything else, making it fundamental and therefore causeless from our individual perspective. And it is unthinkable. This paradox, thinkable, unthinkable, highlights the limitation of our minds. We can think about the concept of consciousness, but its true nature might be beyond our current capacity for complete comprehension, although we can experience its true nature when we transcend thought or sensations or images or feelings or emotions. Also, this paradox, perceivable, non-perceivable. We perceive the world through our senses and mental frameworks, which excludes direct perception of consciousness itself, because it is the perceiver. It is even beyond the perceiver, because it perceives both the subject and the object. So we can experience it only indirectly, consciousness, through our thoughts, feelings, and awareness of being. Okay, so that explains, or I think unpacks, the first statement, that consciousness is irreducible. The second statement, the finite is present in every finite experience or perception. Okay, this statement about the infinite awareness or presence as consciousness in every finite perception or experience is a core concept in many Eastern philosophical and spiritual traditions. It delves into the nature of reality and our place within it, drawing on ancient wisdom traditions, but also on modern science. Infinite. This refers to a limitless, unbounded reality, often understood as the ground of all existence. It is beyond our usual concepts of time, space, and individuality. And then here I always use the words awareness and consciousness synonymously, as I've understood them. And So, awareness is the state of being conscious and knowing the witness to all our thoughts, feelings, and experiences. So, it's a state of being conscious and knowing, and it's the witness to all our thoughts, feelings, and experiences. It's not limited to the individual mind, and it's not bound by the individual mind, but can encompass a broader universal consciousness. Of course, perception is always finite, experience is always finite. This refers to the specific, limited ways we perceive and interact with the world through our senses, and of course, through our thoughts and emotions. Each individual, each of us, has unique experiences shaped by our personal history, perspectives, and limitations. But awareness itself is present in all these experiences. So, awareness being borderless and fundamental and irreducible is the presence in which experience arises and subsides. This means that the infinite is not some distant, inaccessible reality. It's intimately connected to and present within every finite perception, even though we may not be aware of it. So, when we transcend duality, then we actually understand the meaning of this. And then we can challenge the notion of the separation between subject and object, self and other. The infinite is not something outside us, but the very essence of our awareness, the ground of all being. So here, the observer and the observed are one. Think of a dream and think of the dreamer. The dream and the dreamer are not separate entities, but two aspects of the same experience. Similarly, the infinite awareness is not separate from the finite experience, but the underlying fabric of which they are made. The underlying fabric of which finite experiences are made. By recognizing the infinite presence in every finite moment, we can shift our perspective from a sense of limitation and separation to one of what is usually referred to as unity consciousness. It begins with a feeling of interconnectedness, oneness, empathy, compassion, love, joy, equanimity. And this leads to a greater experience of wholeness and fundamental joy and acceptance of the unfolding of life. So I hope these two statements are clear. Okay. Consciousness is irreducible, and the infinite, which is your true self, is present in every finite experience and every finite perception, every finite thought, every finite emotion, every finite image, every finite anything, object. So I hope this unpacking is helpful. Let me know.